really becoming aware and knowing your limits and being able to enforce boundaries and say no around school and teaching is essential if you really don't want to burn out or you need to minimize that burnout. You are listening to the Beyond the Classroom podcast, a podcast for burnt out teachers who know something's gotta give. After teaching for 14 years and feeling completely burned out for way too long, in May of 2022, I made a big decision and left the classroom. I now help burnt out teachers like you take back balance and joy so you can wake up every day loving your life. In this podcast, we'll explore who you are beyond the classroom, whether you're considering leaving or wanting to make changes so you can fall in love with teaching again. Either way, I understand what it's like to be living a life that looks fun and cute on the outside. You know, summer's off, playing all day, off at 2 o'clock every day, but actually feels miserable and draining. I'm your host and coach, Sandy Patterson, and I'm so excited to help you step into your fullest potential and believe in that potential to make an impact on the world, not just survive each day. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello there, and welcome back to the Beyond the Classroom podcast. I am so excited that you are here today to spend a few minutes with me and listen in on this episode. So, over the past few months, I have talked to so many teachers. My teacher friends and the teachers that I coach have all mentioned this same thing, and it is definitely a recurring pattern. And that is that teaching is not what it used to be. People ask me all the time why I wanted to become a teacher, and if you're a teacher too, I'm sure that you probably get that same question often. And most of the people that I've talked with have shared similar reasons for getting into teaching. So to help kids, to make a difference, to teach, to contribute to their community and society, because they love kids, obviously. And if you've been a teacher for 5 or more years, you probably also know how much things have changed in recent years in regards to teaching. And teaching over the past 5 years, even pre-COVID, has changed drastically. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that what teaching is now is not what you initially signed up for. You signed up to teach, right? I know that's how I felt for quite a while. And from talking to so many teachers recently, the actual teaching part of teaching feels like an uphill battle every day. It feels like an impossible task, and then adding on to that impossible tasks are so many unreasonable demands and expectations and micromanagement and all of the other things that are going on right now. So do people ever ask what you do and you tell them you're a teacher? What is the typical response that you get? The response that I usually get is like, oh, that's so cute, or how fun, you get to play with kids all day. But if you're teaching and you're in the trenches, that's not exactly what it's like, right? And if you're not in teaching, it's hard to describe these massive shifts that have happened in teaching. I think because so many of the changes that have occurred are incredibly subtle and they're not tangible, right? It's hard to explain. And in addition, a lot of what is portrayed in the media and on social media makes these shifts seem like no big deal. But in my opinion, society has changed over the past 5 years, 5+ years, which has affected teaching. And it seems like there is no accountability for anything. Students can basically do whatever they want with absolutely no consequences over and over again, even when it is disrupting the learning and teaching, and even when it's putting the other students and the teacher in danger. And that's actual physical danger and emotional danger as well. There literally are no consequences. At least that was my experience in the classroom these last couple years. Parenting, I think, has also changed tremendously, which also affects teaching. It's almost as if teachers are being expected to raise kids, not just teach children. And it's an attitude of entitlement from a lot of parents, kind of like, it's not my problem. And this is definitely not to say that every parent is like this. Of course, there are amazing families, amazing parents, supportive, all of that. But even if there's just one or two, it makes teaching an uphill battle and makes it that much more difficult to find the motivation to keep going and to keep putting in an effort when you feel that immense amount of pressure to basically raise other people's kids, not just teach them. And of course, COVID changed a lot of things too, right? Less resources, more outrageous rules, and literally asking teachers to do impossible things with no resources and no support. I kind of think of it as like asking a chef to make this beautiful, delicious 5-course meal every day, and all they have is a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese and some hot dogs, right? And the crazy part is that they keep showing up every day, day after day, to keep trying, right? That's what teachers do. So the big question today is, what can you do about these huge shifts that have caused so many of us to feel such a big disconnect and disappointment in a job that once brought us so much joy that we love? So I'm going to give you 3 things to think about as far as these changes in teaching and what you can do to move forward. So number 1 is allow yourself time and space to grieve what teaching once was. Now, it can be hard to wrap your head around something you loved once so dearly, turning into something that you just don't even like anymore. Teaching for so many of my clients and my friends and myself was something that you've imagined yourself doing forever. It's your passion. It's who you are on a deep, deep level. Being a teacher becomes your identity. It's who you are. And it can be hard to admit that teaching has changed so much and it's not what it used to be. And for many, it's even become something that brings a lot of pain and anxiety and dread and a lot of emotions. And that's okay. If you resonate with this, just know that you are absolutely not alone. Again, I've talked to so many teachers over the past few months who reach out privately. And so many teachers are feeling this way, and that's why I felt like I needed to address it. So you have to give yourself time to grieve what teaching once was. And in that grief process, a lot of feelings come up, right? You're angry, you're upset, you're disappointed. It's all of those things. And it's important to make space for those feelings and allow yourself to just feel them. If you try to ignore that disappointment and that sadness or whatever it is that you're feeling about what teaching is, it'll just get buried deeper and deeper, and eventually it'll plant itself there, and it's not productive or helpful for anyone. So you really have to go through this grieving process in order to get to a space where you're okay with how things are. And that's not to say that you need to agree with how things are or be happy about them, but just getting to a space where you're okay with where things are and where things are going, or also where they're not going, is super important. Number 2 is to set boundaries for yourself to preserve your sanity and your mental health. Now, boundaries are crucial no matter what. Whether you're thinking you're going to continue teaching, maybe you've considered changing careers, maybe you know you need to get out, maybe you just have a few more years because you're so close to retirement. But either way, no matter what situation you're in, boundaries are going to play a huge role in how you'll be able to navigate moving forward. Now, we all know what boundaries are, and it's easier for many of us to create those boundaries and verbalize them, but the difficult part is actually executing them. And we'll definitely explore more about boundaries in future episodes, but really becoming aware and knowing your limits and being able to enforce boundaries and say no around school and teaching is essential if you really don't want to burn out or you need to minimize that burnout. And with the way teaching is now, in my opinion, teaching is not sustainable. And that was a huge reason that I made the decision to leave the classroom. just realizing that there was no way that I could or want to continue how I was for 20 plus more years or however many more years. There was no way I was going to last. And a way to minimize that burnout is to create those solid boundaries and then enforce them. That's the key there, is enforcing them. Follow through on them for yourself and for your family. Otherwise, well, I don't know what the otherwise is, but it isn't good. You want those boundaries in place so you can be okay with where you're at moving forward. And number 3 is to find your people. This is a huge one. Find people who you wholeheartedly trust. It's like on Meet the Parents, your circle of trust, right? Now, this might be your family, although sometimes it's hard to talk to people that aren't in teaching about teaching because they just don't get it. But it might be your teacher bestie or your teacher besties, or it might be a community of people you've met online. Whoever and wherever it is, find people who align with your values and who you can trust, because you need these people to help pull you through those tough days. You need people to celebrate with you on those good days, and you need a space to vent when you just have to, right? Letting it out to someone you trust over happy hour or a weekend away or whatever it might be can be what makes or breaks your sanity. Again, you don't want to push any of that down because it'll just plant a seed and then grow. And you want to be able to accept the frustration, accept the feelings, the disappointment, accept all of those feelings, and then take a deep breath, exhale them out, and move on, because you're more important than your job. So to recap this episode, teaching has changed a ton over the past 5, 10, even 15 years. And to navigate these big shifts and changes, there are 3 things you can do. Number 1 is to give yourself space and time and grace, and to allow yourself to grieve what teaching once was. Again, make space for those feelings, recognize it, and move along. Not move along in a way that's like everything's okay, but just being able to move along and be okay in a space where you're okay with how things are is essential, and understanding that you can't control everything. Number 2 is to set boundaries for yourself to preserve your sanity and mental health. Set those boundaries as far as work, school, teaching, and then stick to them. That's the key. And number 3 is to find your people. Find the people that you trust and lean into them, support them. We are not meant to do anything alone. So use those people, connect with those people, support those people, and build that trust so you have somewhere to talk about your frustrations or anything that's going on in teaching. I can't wait to hear what resonates with you about this episode. Or maybe you have something that's not on this list that you would add. I would just love for you to share. I love connecting with teachers, so please feel free to reach out. I will leave all of the links that you need in the show notes, and I cannot wait to hear what you think. So until next time, take care, and I will see you back here for another episode. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Classroom. If you know something has to change and you're ready to take the next step to make it happen, whether it's in or out of the classroom, let's talk it through together. Schedule a no-obligation chat with me, and we can talk through where you're stuck, how to get you unstuck, and how to keep you moving forward. Schedule your free call today by clicking the link in the show notes. I can't wait to connect with you.